Hey guys, it's Harleywood. Today I'm very excited to introduce you to a new sharpener. I've done several on the channel, and in fact they end up being some of my most popular videos. I have no doubt this one's going to follow suit, if not take the lead. This is the Tormek. This is the brand new T8 that hit the market a few months ago, and I've already been using it for a while. I'm going to show you some footage of me unboxing it and kind of setting it up, and go over some of the things that it includes. And for the price point, it's actually pretty robust and pretty competitive. It's not cheap. I mean, obviously this is probably something that you would want to buy if you had some way of making money, if you were sharpening knives to make money. Much like the Wicked Edge, they're about comparable in price. There's some pros and cons to both of them, so we're going to go over some of that. But let's go ahead and go over some of the parts that we have here. It comes with a lot of stuff, and the first thing that I would recommend is read the instructions thoroughly. It comes with a quick getting started guide. It comes with your warranty card. There's a 7-year warranty on it. Comes with safety instructions and a spare parts list, and then a very thick and detailed almost like a manual for sharpening all sorts of tools. This will do everything from chisels to axes to obviously knives, and it has the ability to sharpen many more things than I even have. Like, I have one chisel, and it's not even really a chisel that I could use on this, but I would advise, if you want to see some videos of that, to go to their website and check it out. It even has a DVD that kind of walks you through the process. Funny enough, it comes with Band-Aids. Thankfully I haven't had to use those. It comes with a truing guide to help you make sure you have the wheel trued up. It comes with a honing compound and a honing oil. Make sure you pay attention to how to use these. You're supposed to saturate the leather wheel first with the honing oil, and then you're supposed to use the compound. I got 2 jigs with it. I got kind of a wider jig and a more narrow jig. It comes with an angle gauge, and I'll show you a little bit more about that later. And then this is very interesting, and this kind of sets it apart. This is a stone that helps you set the grit of the main stone here. It has a very rough and coarse side, and then it has a very smooth finish on this side. And you'll see some footage of me using it here coming up shortly. But basically, if you want a rougher texture, like you're trying to change an angle or grind off some material, let's say you had a chip in the edge of your blade, you could use this rougher texture to kind of rough this wheel up and help you take off more material. And then when you're ready to kind of fine it up a little bit, use this other side, and while it's spinning, you just let it kind of shave and smooth this down. If you saw my video where I reviewed this at Blade Show, I did a little quick booth review. I got footage of the guy actually using this, and it works. It's interesting. I mean, and they also make a Japanese water stone that you can use and replace here. I'm going to post in the description below what all the grit levels are, based on when you use the compound on the leather and when you use these 2 sides. I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say the fine side here is somewhere around 1,000, but I'll go ahead and post that in the description below. And then there's a jig for chisels, and it comes with a water tray. On the front of the water tray is a magnet that you can take off and remove, and it catches a lot of material. I'm going to take this off in a minute and show you how much metal material is actually stuck to that thing. And then there's an extension here that comes on and off pretty easily, and it allows you, if you're taking something like a long blade and you're going out really far, it allows the water to travel back into the tray. So really well thought out. The first time that you load this up, I used like a full I think a 3-quart pitcher of water, because the stone will absorb quite a bit of water the first time that you fire it up. And if it's sat for a while and you go to fire it up again, same thing, you're going to have to put more water in. So just be prepared for that. It's got a guide across the top here. It's got a carry handle, your on and off switches. You can switch the guide to these 2 positions on the front, and I'll go through some of that. Very well thought out. Let me clean this table off a little bit, show you some footage of me actually using this, and then we'll talk about it in a little more detail. Alright, so first let's talk about this angle guide. It has notches across the top and the side. If you wanted to get a real quick idea of what the angle might be on something, here you can see I have this axe, and it's about a 35-degree angle. You can see if I were to put it up here in 55, it doesn't quite fit. You set the diameter of your stone here, so you can see I have it set at a 10-inch stone, which is what the Tormek comes with. And then over here you set the angle that you want the grind to be on the blade. And so I had it at 25 for a knife that I was sharpening previously. Let me go ahead and get you a close-up and show you how this actually works on the actual device. Okay, so I've got a blade on here that I know has a 15-degree angle on it. If I set this down on the stone and I put the guide here right on the tip of the blade, you can see there's a little bit of daylight underneath there. See that? So I'm going to turn this adjustment dial on the back to raise up the arm until that touches and lays flat. And you can see there it's pretty much laying flat on the blade, and that's how I know that I've got the angle correct. Alright, let's talk about the water trough briefly. There's a dial on the back, and turning that dial raises and lowers the water trough. Now, one thing that I have noticed, and you'll probably see in some of the footage, is when you're working a blade across this, a lot of times water will come down this side. It may run down the front of the machine a little bit. I mean, it's not going to hurt anything, and it'll run down and won't quite get captured by the water trough on this inside edge. So I have a paper towel under here, but if I take that out, and take out that water trough, I told you I would show you some of the metal shavings that the magnet captured. You can see that right there. If I take that magnet off, it doubles as a scraper. And I just scraped all that off. That's probably metal shavings from, I don't know, I think I've sharpened 6 or 7, maybe 8 blades on here. So that's all the metal shavings. Pretty cool that they included something like that. Alright, so one thing I already mentioned is that you can take the guide here, take it off. You can either use it still on this side. Let's say you wanted to do where the wheel was turning and actually taking material away from the blade, but you can turn it over and use it on this side with the honing wheel, with the leather wheel. Now, one thing that I did find about this, and the reason that I've kind of switched to doing this side by hand, is when you're running this back and forth, on some longer blades, the end of the knife here will hit this stone. And so you either got to really change your angle, and this knife's not so much of a problem, but I did sharpen some kitchen knives, and when you got a 10-inch blade on here and you're bringing it across, you can see right here that it hits the wheel. Even this one does. And you start to angle it out and it gets okay, but on some of those longer knives it does become a little bit of a problem. So I chose to pretty much just release the blade from the jig and then run it by hand, and I could really control that a little bit better and make sure I wasn't hitting the stone. So one of the first questions that I asked was, what's the difference between the T8 and the T7? And there's not a whole lot. I mean, the T7 was still a great unit. It's still highly popular in the knife sharpening industry. But some of the differences, I found a website that actually lays them out, and I'm going to post a link in the description below. The Tormek T7 had a welded steel housing. This one has a zinc top, and then there's some ABS plastic on the sides. The tool rest mounts here and here, on the T8, they're integral. They're just built into the zinc housing. On the T7, they were separate units that actually attached to the T7. The water trough on this one has this adjustable height that I went over before, and like I showed, it has that magnetic scraper. The other one just had a magnet and scraper on the T7. And then the cord is in a different place. On this one, it's on the side underneath the leather wheel. On the T7, it was on the back of the machine. Both still have that 7-year warranty, so no difference there. And I haven't really even heard of anybody having to use that warranty, but the fact that you have it is pretty nice. Alright, so I mentioned this stone before. Again, if you want to do a lot of material removal, you'll use this more abrasive side here to basically reset the stone. If you want to do some fine work, you'll use the very smooth side here. And you can really feel the difference too. If I push this down, not only can you hear it, But if you hold your finger on it, you can feel the grit change. And then if I want to set it back to a finer stone, you hear how little abrasion is happening there. But you can run your finger across it and you can feel where there's any rough spots, and you can kind of adjust this a little bit. Typically it's out here on the two sides, and so you may have to tilt this slightly to get all those little burrs out. So let's talk about some of the pros and cons versus some of the other systems that I've used. I have a Lansky system. You can get, pretty good edges with a Lansky for the price. It's fine. If you're going to want to do things quickly, that's probably not a good solution for you. This will definitely get it done quicker. I mean, obviously it's mechanical. It's doing a lot of the manual work for you, so you're not having to use the stones by hand. I also reviewed the Hapstone Pro. Kind of a similar thing. I think the Hapstone Pro allows you a little more control than a Lansky system. Things are a little bit more precise and dialed in, whereas the Lansky's a little floppy. Hapstone Pro kind of takes a lot of that out of the equation. It's very much like an Edge Pro Apex, if you've ever used one of those. And then the Wicked Edge. The Wicked Edge videos, I have two of them. I have a booth review, and then I have an actual test, a personal test like this one. And it's either a love-hate relationship with the Wicked Edge. I happen to love it, and the reason most people hate it is for the price. They don't think that the price justifies what you get. And I get it, it's expensive. You can probably sharpen a lot faster on this. I would say you'd get a lot sharper blades on the Wicked Edge. Now, I don't have the Japanese Waterstone for this, so I don't know how much of a difference that would make, but I do know that with the Wicked Edge, I mean, I can get things to where I'm just scarily sharp, just ridiculously sharp, but it takes a lot of time. So this, I would say within 5 minutes, you can take chips out, you can reprofile, you can do things like that, and it produces a very nice working edge, like a very nice utilitarian edge on something. I'm going to roll in some footage of me, kind of slicing through some very flimsy paper. The first part, it's actually a label, like a sticker, so it's a little thick, and then when I flip it around, that's just a paper part. Again, you'll see a little bit of catching in there, but that's about 5 minutes of sharpening this, and maybe another 5 to 10 minutes of honing it. And the honing produces a really nice mirror edge very, very quickly. Whereas on the Wicked Edge, using the leather strops, you really got to work at it for a while to get a lot of those little micro scratches out of the metal surface. So this does it in a fraction of the time, but again, you're not going to quite get it as sharp. So it really depends. If you just like to zen out and work a blade and really get something hair popping sharp, again, a lot of people don't want a hair popping sharp blade because they feel like it dulls faster. It depends on what you're doing with it. If this was my skinning knife for a while, and obviously it was going through bone and stuff like that, like cutting through sternum bones on deer, and the edge took a beating, I was able to reprofile it very, very quickly with this. Whereas if I had done it with the Wicked Edge, probably would have taken me a little bit longer. Now, if this was a knife that I wanted to, kind of show my friends and do your arm shaving trick and stuff like that, I'd probably do it on the Wicked Edge. And again, depends on what you want to use the blades for, and it depends on how much time you want to spend with it. The prices are very, very similar. When I first reviewed the Wicked Edge, it was $700, and people just fell out of their chairs over the $700 price point. Now the Gen 3 Pro, I believe, is $850. This is $700. And some of the people in the Wicked Edge videos actually commented and said the money would be better spent here. It really just depends. I have both now, and honestly, I will use them differently depending on what I want to do. If I'm going to sharpen an axe, obviously I'm going to bring it over here. This is a much better platform. The Wicked Edge is not set up to do that. If I want to just retreat to my shop and kind of zen out and work on some knives and listen to some music and get those like mirror polish finishes and just hair popping sharp, and with the Wicked Edge you can even do hanging hair sharpness where you just literally lay a hair on it and it pops it, then I would use the Wicked Edge for that. So that's it, guys. This is a brilliant system, very well thought out. When I opened the box, just the amount of jigs and the documentation that it comes with is impressive. I will say there's a learning curve to this angle measurer thing, so spend some time with it, read the instruction manual, and make sure you understand it. There's a lot of times where I was having to get down and really, really pay close attention. And when you turn it on, you know, run your blade a few times and then look at it and see where that profile is cutting and make sure that it's actually, you know, cutting where you want it to cut. And that's it. It's a really, really nice system. I love both of them. You know, the Wicked Edge and this, and the Hapstone. It's sitting right over here to my my right. I love them all, and they're kind of just serve a different purpose depending on what I want to do. So if you have any questions, post them in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Like, I'm really interested to hear what people think about this. I know what they think about the Wicked Edge. It's sitting on another table over here, and like I said, it's a love or hate. I don't see any reason to hate this. This is a pretty brilliant setup. I'm going to post a bunch of links in the descriptions below as far as, you know, what the different grits are, what the difference between this and the T7, and some other materials if you want to go check that out. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. I have a lot of videos coming up this month. Hit that subscribe button below to make sure you don't miss them. We'll see you soon.